Okay, I was told I had 10 minutes, and so I've got 10 items in 10 minutes. All right. Cookies are on the way. That is very important. Sorry for missing last meeting. I forget where I was, what I was doing, but I promise it was something important. This is important to me to come out and kind of give you all an update whenever possible. A couple of quick updates, actually 10, very quickly. Homecoming is coming up 2 weeks from now, so 2 Fridays from now. So not tomorrow, but 2 Fridays thereafter. And we're going to have a band, which will actually be playing right out here. And Stanley's is barbecuing on the premises. And we're going to have a hot air balloon and a whole lot of other stuff, fireworks, a lot of other stuff too. So please come out and be a part of that. If you've got kids, bring your kids out as well. There should be a registration page. Susan, is that right? That's going to be, I think it's already up, so you'll get a link sometime very soon. It is RSVP because, you know, we need to know how many people are actually going to come. So make sure that you RSVP for that. The Professional Development Conference, the career conference that we've been talking about as I've gone around and talked to all the colleges, we're very excited about that. If you have any questions, talk to your dean. I am in direct contact with them. Again, what we are asking is that the first Thursday, and we'll get you the exact date of the fall semester, that you don't cancel your class, but you reassign your students to be part of the conference. The development office, advancement office is working really hard to bring in a lot of really strong alumni and community people to talk about all of your disciplines, but not the particulars of what they may learn in a 101 class, but how do you become successful in that particular field? And so we're going to be asking that you introduce those alumni, those friends of the university, in their various sessions. And again, we expect to have a really, really nice day that day. It'll be a full day event, actually. We'll start off with a networking breakfast. We'll have various sessions throughout the day. We'll have a lunch, and then we'll also have an evening cocktail party for our graduate students, faculty, and then those who spoke throughout the course of the day as well. So it'll be a full day. I've done this at 2 previous institutions with an extraordinary amount of fanfare to really help catalyze our student success and student engagement initiatives. It's my understanding that Faculty Senate and USAC are going to work collaboratively this year on a joint awards ceremony, end of the year awards ceremony. I know there was a little bit of haggling a couple meetings ago about whether it was going to be black tie or not. I don't know if you've twisted this guy's arm or not yet, but I guess I'll find out a couple more details in the next few days because USAC does want to be a part of that. And so
5 attire.
It'll be after 5 attire. So quote him, after 5 attire. Searches for the 2 VP positions, very quickly, VP of Advancement search is still ongoing. Same thing with the VP of Student Affairs search. We do expect to be making some decisions very quickly. You all have probably seen my email. Ms. Susan Rossman is the interim VP of Advancement for us, and she is doing a great job. So please give her a round of applause. We're extremely blessed to have her on the team. She's already adding a great deal of value to the advancement office. So we're in great hands, great hands. So, and I think Amir is going to be talking a little bit about the international director fairly soon. Our international outreach efforts are going strong as well. If you've read the stories in the local newspaper about the group from China that wants to come in and invest $1.6 billion with a B in West Tyler over by All Saints, in a community, not just for Chinese, though that's what the article says, it's for anybody that wants to live there. But the idea they have is that they will have a number of families who want to move from China and actually, quite frankly, from other parts of the U.S. into Tyler, Texas, because we have such a strong community here to become community members here. They've had a number of conversations with a number of community members. I'm one of the people that they wanted to speak with because, as you all know, we have a strong educational system here at the University of Texas at Tyler, and a lot of the students in China would love to take advantage of that. And so we've made no commitments to anyone about taking not even a single student because of this business deal. At this point, it's just simply been conversation. But we are ramping up, as you all know, even before these folks came along, our international efforts, as we've been talking about for the last year via our strategic planning process. So when I know more, I'll make sure that you all know more as well. As I understand it, they haven't even bought a single acre of land yet. So until they buy land, it's all talk. So I'll let you know more as I know more. You all probably seen in the local newspaper and on television, quite frankly, our new scholarship efforts. the presidential scholarships. They are going phenomenally well. This is where we take students out of our region, Tyler, Bullard High School, Longview, Palestine as well. Those who have performed very well on the SAT or ACT, also high school GPA. And we offer them full rides to the University of Texas at Tyler. As you all probably recall, we've never offered a single cohesive full ride scholarship to the university before. And so now we're doing that, and the community is really aligning with us to make sure that that's successful. So we're real happy about that. I will be talking. Yep. Yeah, that's going to really be a lot of fun, because those kids are not that our other students aren't bright, they certainly are, but when we're very purposeful about going out and recruiting that caliber of student, it's going to have a real lasting impact on where we go as an institution. I'll be in Austin actually next week giving some testimony on tuition and a few other things to a joint Senate and congressional representative subcommittee. I'll be back then next week. And then the following week, I'll go down and present our marketing plan and some elements of our strategic plan to the Board of Regents. When I get back from that meeting, we should be good to go. So you'll see banners going up around campus. We will have in early March a big blowout for our new strategic plan. You'll see the new logo. It'll be really, really fun. So just know that that'll be coming up. I don't know if Howard's talking about Division II today. Is he? Okay. No, he said he's not. So I'll mention it very quickly. The Division II application has been submitted. They have responded that they got it. And in fact, I think they wanted us to come up there. They've already given us a date to come up and get orientated for Division II sometime in August, I think it is. Does not mean the application is accepted. What it does mean, however, is that it looks pretty good so far. But again, no decision has been made on their part. So again, when we know more, we'll certainly let you more. We expect to know in June or July whether they've accepted our application to go to Division II. You all have probably heard around here that there's a big announcement that's coming on Monday. That is true. There will be a huge announcement, one of the biggest in the history of the university. One of our teams here on campus is going to be doing some really, really special things going forward. So if you can come out at 10:30, you'll get an email probably Saturday or Sunday about it. Maybe even tomorrow. I don't know. I'll have to talk to Lucas, but you will get an email about it. If you want to come out and be a part of that big celebration ceremony for one of our teams, please do so. I think you're going to find that the impact that this big announcement is going to have on not just the university, but really all of our region is going to be very significant. That's not 10 minutes, that's 8 minutes. I'm just making sure that I stay on time. So that's it. 2 minutes about questions, something about? Yeah, so I think many of you have been on my college tours, or you have been in the sessions when I've gone on my little college tours and talked about various things. Was there anything in particular you wanted me to mention about those? Yeah, so I think I may have one more college to do. I think I've done most of them already. Is it nursing? Excuse me, nursing and kinesiology, I believe, is the final one for me to do, and I don't know when that is, but I think it's coming up either this week or later next week. So, do you know when that is? 22nd. All right, so it is coming up fairly soon. So, any other questions? Y'all want to get to Dr. Stein, don't you? They don't want to hear from me much longer. So, all right. Well, thank y'all very much. Appreciate it. All
right. Thank you, President Tidwell. Appreciate it. I'm actually going to use this as well. Thank you so much. I wanted to let you know, I just got a note about the cookies thing. They're coming on or around the time of the presentation. Yes. So if Dr. Mimiran is here, so if you don't mind, if you can give us about a couple of minutes or 3 minutes to do the minutes review and approval, and then we'll come to you, if that's all right.
So yeah, you should all have the minutes. Any changes to be made? Move to accept. All right, second. All in favor? All against? Also, be sure to sign the sign-up sheets on the tables so that we get your names in there. That way you don't have to email me later saying, I was there.
Thank you so much, Colin. Dr. Mirmaran, you're next if you're ready. If you're not ready, we can do something else. And
Thank you. Do I need the other one or this is?
just this one was. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Mokhtari, for the opportunity to update you from the academic affairs. I have 3 updates. The first one relates to the Quantum Leap student success grant that we received from the system. And we just had a meeting with the chairs of those departments that are involved with that grant, as well with the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, the Dr. Mokhtari from the Faculty Senate, and the Academy for Distinguished Teachers. So we talked about the Digital Success Toolkit that is a part of the deliverables from that grant and is moving forward very well for 35 of our courses to provide additional augmenting materials for the students to be able to reach out and benefit from those. But the part that we discussed that is going to come as a result of that is the faculty development part of it. And I wanted to make sure that I have an opportunity to thank Dr. Mokhtari for playing an important role on behalf of the Faculty Senate and as well the Faculty Senate overall to make this a priority for the Faculty Senate, because as I have said before, we're as an institution of higher education, we're as good as our faculty. And if we don't invest in the development and the work of our faculty, then we would not be able to do well with the students. And that's why the way I see student success is really through faculty success. So students succeed if the faculty succeed, and we have to see it that way. So there would be additional opportunities for the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning Faculty Senate, the initiative that they started last year and is coming to the fruition with the help of the Academy for Distinguished Teachers, as well as the Center and Academic Affairs would definitely invest in it. And we want to make sure that this becomes a reality going forward, that we would have the opportunities for faculty development and seeing how faculty would be able to play an important and integral role in the student success, which is part of the strategic plan, the first pillar of our strategic plan. The second update that I wanted to give you, as the President alluded to, is the search updates. Within the next few days, I'm hoping that we would be able to make an announcement regarding the Executive Director of the Office of International Program. The search has come to the conclusion. We have started the search for the Dean of Arts and Sciences, and I believe that throughout the spring, there would be many candidates that would be vetted and would be brought to campus. And as well, we have ongoing search. I think it would be for the Director of Research and a Scholarship. And the last one is, in fact, for the University College. As I mentioned in my last report to you, we are reorganizing the academic affairs, and basically the area that I thought that we would have significant need was the area of undergraduate and online education. So rather than just focusing it on an academic or non-academic college of University College, I am reformatting that as an assistant or associate provost for undergraduate and online education, or undergraduate studies online education. And so that search is going to also be launched within the next few days, and there would be a committee with representatives from different colleges, from the Faculty Senate, and we would make sure that this is going to lead to a good hire before the end of the spring, so that the person could start actually in fall. So those are the 4 searches that either are coming to a conclusion or we will be starting or restarting them soon. The last update that I wanted to give you was the faculty workload. As you know, the system, the Board of Regents changed the Regent Rule 31006 and required every one of the campuses to work on their own faculty workload policy and provide a final version of it to the Chancellor by November of 2018. So we have really a spring term to work on that proposal, and by the end of the semester, we hope that we would be able to submit that to the President. There's a committee of 13, including myself, with the President, Faculty Senate, and 1 faculty member from each one of the colleges, the 6 colleges that we have, and 1 administrator, either chair or assistant dean or associate dean from each one of those colleges. And in the minutes, we make sure that the lists of those faculty members and administrators, chairs or deans are provided to you so that you can reach out to them, and it is their responsibility to also reach out to their colleagues to make sure that there is a dialogue about the faculty workload and how we would be able to do that. So throughout the semester, you would hear from them. And also, we're hoping that we would have some town hall meeting probably shortly after the spring break to be able to have conversation about what would be the general feeling about the faculty workload. I'm sure that that is very important consideration for each and every one of us on faculty. And in the first meeting, I gave them 4 guiding principles from my perspective on the faculty workload. And I would just try to quickly run through them so that you would know what we are trying to do. And I understood from the committee that there was a consensus that these are important guiding principles for us to follow. One is the student success, the first pillar of a strategic plan. So whatever we do in terms of faculty workload has to make sure that it is in line with our student success mission. That's why we said, for example, if you're going to have our core courses that are the first type of courses that our students, freshmen, are seeing, only taught by 25% of them taught by tenured or tenured track faculty, that is not a good measure of student success. We need to make sure if there are any disincentives, we would remove those disincentives from our faculty workload policy. The second one is fairness and equity. We want to make sure that if I have a faculty member in area A that teaches over 100 students in every section that they have, I would not have another faculty member that only teaches, say, 5 or 10 students in only 1 course, and therefore there is an imbalance. So we have to all be able to have some sort of a, while we recognize the difference between disciplines, between different departments, and between different accreditation requirements, at the same time, we need to make sure we're as balanced and fair and equitable as we are to the faculty. The third criteria is that we want to connect assignments to assessments. So just like considering our institution, we are different from an R1 institution such as the UT Austin, so we don't expect the assignments to be the same as what they would have at UT Austin within the faculty, as well as we need, but from department to department, we want to make sure that there is a balance between assignment and assessment, in that sense that if I am assigned as part of my duties to do more of research and scholarship, then I should be assessed accordingly. And if my load is primarily teaching, I should be assessed accordingly. And that would lead into differential teaching and other workload that are comparable and actually looks at holistic view of workload rather than just what is the minimum teaching load. The last one is, of course, it is our fiduciary responsibility as an institution, and given the fact that significant part of the tuition and the state funding that we get goes to instructional costs, that we would make sure that our workload lends itself to efficiency, and therefore we want to make sure that however way we do it, they would be efficient, and we would be able to hold our faculty workload policy to the system before it goes to the Board of Regents and say, yes, this is an efficient, it matches our strategic plan, it helps promote the student success, and it also balances the, and is fair and balances the load of the faculty in different departments in different areas. So those are the updates that I have. I'm sorry that I ran through and probably rambled a lot, but I'm hoping that you get a sense of what we are trying to do. Any questions that you may have?
Thank you, Provost Miriran. Thank you very much for your update. As you can see from the past, the 2 updates, the present update and the provost updates, there are lots of things happening, and these things are happening very, very fast. And I think there's a missing something in here, in my opinion. I'm only speaking for me, and that is the faculty and staff involvement. And I'm talking about we need your voice, we need your engagement, we need to hear what you're thinking about. And we need you to share those with us and with your faculty and your departments and colleges and so forth. I want to share with you something that I saw yesterday Dr. DiLello did this incredibly nice showcase here in this place, back there in that room. And it was a showcase to recognize the good work that faculty are doing in terms of research. And there were about half a dozen, if I remember right, Julie? Half a dozen or so. It was an awesome experience. The only disappointing thing for me was there were very few people that were there. And so please do what you can to share some of this stuff that we're talking about here and be there. That would be my message to you today. Do what you can to get involved. Call us, let us know. We want to hear what you're thinking, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. So because we want to work together to hold hands to make sure that we contribute individually or in teams or in large groups to the health and well-being of our university. So the next item is Paul, but I don't think he's here yet. But if we can go ahead and do a little bit of an update on one of the committee's updates, if you're ready, sir. This is the Emeritus, Faculty Emeritus Committee, and Wycliffe, Dr. Wycliffe Njorai is the chair of that committee. And so he's going to give us a little bit of an update of where they are, what they're doing as far as that goes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Oh, that's better. Where I come from, when you meet somebody for the first time, before you have any conversation, you use the word Mlembe. So tell your neighbor Mlembe. Tell your neighbor where you are. Tell them Mlembe. Tell to your neighbor, say Mlembe. Mlembe simply means let there be peace between me and you. Yeah, so when there is peace, you can have a conversation. Yes, about the emeritus faculty, we've already sent out information for people to be nominated. These are people who have served our institution with distinction. And the requirements are 5. 1, that somebody ought to have already retired, at least in the last 5 years, or is going to retire before the start of the next academic year. The second requirement is that somebody ought to have completed a minimum of 10 years of service at UT Tyler. The third requirement is that somebody ought to have attained the rank of full professor. On this one, this is for UT Tyler, that somebody ought to have risen to the level of a full professor. But from our other UT's system, sister universities, we noticed that there is also provision for associate professor. So this is something that maybe we need to revisit down the road so that we can accommodate people in the rank of associate professor and those who have served the institution with distinction. The fourth requirement is that one ought to be nominated by at least 3 full-time tenured faculty. And last but not least, of course, is that somebody ought to have demonstrated good character and sustained quality service to the institution. So far, I've only received 2 recommendations. We are still waiting for more. We're still waiting for more. So if you have somebody in the institution, in your department that is going to retire before the start of the next academic year, and they meet that criteria, please submit a letter of nomination and make sure that you mobilize your colleagues. At least a minimum of 3 letters of nomination are needed for us to put the name forward. Otherwise, all is going well, and I hope that when we meet, we can deliberate on this issue of whether we should not include associate professors in the call for emeritus status in future. But that is something that I'm sure that we shall deliberate upon. Let me also recognize the members of the committee, if they are in the house. Quita is a member, Tom Crippen, and we also have Stephen Bouchard, and we have Barbara Hart. Those are the members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Wycliffe. Appreciate it.
One of the things that the committee or the Senate may want to consider is We are restricting it to faculty emeritus, but I think the Regents rules allow it to be include like chair emeritus, dean emeritus. That's something that you all might want to consider if that's something to look at in the future.
Yes, that is correct. I think in one of our earlier electronic conversations with some members of the committee, that issue has come up. People that have served in the roles of chairmanship, in the roles of deans for over 10 years, that is distinguished service. And indeed, in the rule governing emeritus status, there is that provision that people who have served in those administrative positions can actually also be granted the same honor. So I think that's a conversation that definitely we are going to have going down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Geiger, I'm glad you mentioned that. We actually have a meeting with President Tidwell next Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk about one of the issues that a number of faculty have brought to our attention, which is if you're an associate professor and you retire, you're not included, which doesn't make any sense. So, but we have actually looked at all the system, universities within the system, and it's allowed. You can be included if you're an associate professor and retiring. You just added one element, and we'll add it to that conversation with the president next week, and we'll get back to you on that. So, talking about Dr. Geiger, I've been informed of 2 new policies that are in place at this point in time. Dr. Geiger is here if there are any questions. The first policy has to do with online instruction, and it reads, all faculty assigned to teach an online course or a course with an online component shall complete training on online instruction prior to teaching the course. Training on online instruction must be updated every 3 years. I'm just reporting. The second policy is on the review of faculty teaching credentials. And I'm going to read it in part, and of course, perhaps Dr. Geiger can fill in maybe some details, or if you have any questions. The policy reads, all faculty assigned to teach credit-bearing courses shall have their credentials reviewed prior to being approved to teach a course. For each course a faculty member is assigned to teach, the chairperson of the unit will determine the suitability of the individual to teach the course based on academic credentials that adhere to the expectations of the SACs. When a faculty member's academic qualifications do not clearly meet those expectations, additional documentation such as transcripts should be reviewed for academic qualifications, etc. There's more to the policy, but I just wanted to give you the gist of it. Any questions about the policy? Any of the 2 policies, the online teaching policy or the faculty qualifications policy? No questions? Okay. Thank you. So Paul is here. If you're ready, we on.
Thank you, Queter. Hey, everybody. I'm Paul Stroifert. I'm the Executive Director of the Honors Program, and I just left a class, ran over here, realized how out of shape I am. Give me a beat. We were having a big discussion about feminist responses to Freud in the freshman honors class today, and I hate to leave that conversation. It was so good. But anyway, I'm here with an important piece of news, and I need to ask your help on something. The Honors Program and the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning will be hosting our 3rd annual Lyceum, which is the showcase for undergraduate and graduate research at UT Tyler. We'll be having that on Thursday, April 26th, over in the UC, and it's basically set up like a conference, more or less like an undergraduate research conference. But we begin with some paper sessions in the morning, oral presentations, and then we move to a poster session in the afternoon that day. And both undergraduate and graduate students at UT Tyler are invited to submit their research for showcasing that day in either of those 2 venues. And we need your help. We need faculty help in 3 areas. Firstly, if all of you could encourage your students to participate, that's the biggest and most important thing we need. Our office is not able to email all the students on campus. So to get the word out about the Lyceum, we need you, especially your junior and senior students, but this, it's open to any student at UT Tyler and your graduate students. But it would be a huge help to us if you would, I'm gonna send an email today, an all-fac staff email with a link. The submissions are live. Students can submit now until April 9th. If you would forward that email to your classes, maybe post the link on Canvas, that would be a huge help for us, and it would help us get our word out about the event. You can also find information on our website about the Lyceum, like the schedule and how the day breaks down and how to submit and all those good things. So that's the first thing we need your help with, if you could help us get the word out about the Lyceum. Secondly, if you would attend the Lyceum on the 26th, it's a full day of events. It's come and go. If you can stop by and look at the posters or stop by for one panel of oral presentations, that would be a huge help to us. Last year we had over 200 attendees, faculty, staff, students, even some parents. And it was an amazing thing to see so many people come together for this event last year. So we'd love it if you would come to the Lyceum and encourage your students to do so as well. And then lastly, the last thing we need faculty help from is in terms of judging. We have prizes that we give to the posters and to the oral presentations, and we need lots and lots of judges. It'll probably take less than an hour that day if you have the time to do that, and we could really use your help. There's an already made rubric. It's very simple. We just need your presence there. If you've served as a judge before for the Lyceum, you'll be getting an email from Amy Hayes, because we have last year's list. If you didn't serve as a judge last year and would like to, please either email Amy Hayes, who's the chair of the Faculty Learning Community for Undergraduate Research, or email me, and we'll make sure to get you scheduled and let you know what's what. And it's all very easy. We need help from faculty and staff on judging for the Lyceum. So those are my points of asking for help from you. We'd love to see you out that day. Please, though, let me know if you have any questions about the Lyceum. Are there any questions that spring to mind? No. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. So I think we have about 20 minutes left, and we're going to go ahead and move into the last segment of the meeting agenda, which is there's some items that we want to give you a little bit of an update on in terms of Faculty Senate. In fact, I was asked to also share something else with you about the homecoming. I don't know how many of you are aware of what the homecoming committee has been doing. And I was asked to share this with you this morning. It says this year's homecoming schedule is exponentially larger than in past years. One of the many new events is the inclusion of the college alumni, faculty, and staff tents. If you're interested in meeting with alumni for your college, please contact your dean and copy Jesse Reel or Brittany Childs as soon as possible so that they can notify the alumni of expected presence during the time of reunion and mingling. Faculty, staff, college tents will be in the baseball field lots, 11 a.m. March 3rd. And the whole homecoming week basically is February 26th through March 3rd. Just wanted to share that announcement. And if you have any other questions, Jesse Reel or Brittany Childs are the contact person. And I'm sure you have received communications with one or both of them about this as well. Just want to pass this on. The first item under the Faculty Senate updates, want to share with you just a little bit of information about the visits that we had last week by Tony Cuccolo and Susan Franzen. How many of you attended one or both of that? I mean, that's fantastic. And so basically, as you know, Tony was about a year ago, and he did sort of a general presentation about faculty shared governance. And he talked about the 6 principles, if you remember, about the shared governance. And presidents, I don't know if I shared with any of you, presidents are expected to be evaluated on the extent to which those 6 principles are actually implemented in colleges starting in 2018. And so the purpose of Tony's visit this year was to kind of come in and kind of do a little bit of have a conversation with the faculty, with chairs, deans, a cabinet, the president, et cetera, sort of kind of where we are on the implementation of those 6 principles So if I might, there's lots of information that they shared with us. We'd be happy to make them available for you. When they were here, Zoom didn't work. And so some of you may have, if you were on Zoom, you missed a lot of this information, but we're happy to share with you some of his notes, both Susan and Tony's notes. Let us know, and we'll be happy to share with you what we know. But if I could leave you with this, if it's possible, please have a conversation in your colleges, in departments, about shared governance. Keep us posted. Let us know what's happening. Ask us to help if we can help in any way. Tony has told us that he is happy to come back and do a follow-up or whatever. He's also offered for us to call him or email him or share whatever information. So his impression is, and this is really just my impression of what I think he got away from, is that the president, the provost, everybody's on board as far as shared governance is concerned, but he was not sure if it's really happening within colleges and departments. And so that's what I'm focusing on. If you could begin conversations, particularly those of you who are representing the faculty senate as senators, please start the conversation, maybe in a meeting or something like that. Have a conversation with your deans and faculty and chairs and so on, and let us know, because Tony really, they want to know how to, they're not asking us to do, they're asking us to let them know how they can help us make sure that shared governance is actually implemented and it's useful and helpful for all of us. So that's about the Tony Kukulo. Any questions about that? Yes. Sure.
Yeah, thank you. The School of Nursing has implemented a shared governance model about 1.5 years ago. It's been incredibly successful. We owe it to Anthe Caruso. She's led that effort, and I suspect she'd be willing to consult with anyone who wants to help. I'm volunteering her. Everyone who wants to explore that.
Awesome.
Seriously, I mean, she did a beautiful job leading the school through that.
I'd like to know what you guys are doing. I can tell you that I'm very proud of what we're doing in our college as well, and I could share some of that with you. I think if I can put our dean on the spot, if that's okay. Is that possible? Can I do it? I think we have been doing, practicing shared governance before shared governance became sort of an expectation. And you know, and I can report that I'm very proud of what we're doing in terms of implementation of shared governance in our own college. And I suspect that other colleges are in somewhat the same situation as well. But let's start this conversation. Let us know, keep us posted. And I'm happy to be the gopher. I'm happy to be that person to, pass it on or help or find answers to questions or whatever the need might be. So any other comments or questions about Tony? Now, another item related to Tony and Susan Franzen's visit, Susan Franzen, as you know, she talked about climate and culture. And we have been working with her specifically. She has a lot of expertise in this world about culture and climate. And we are in the process of preparing a climate/culture survey that we will be administering to faculty and staff sometime this semester. I don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but we'll keep you posted on that. So let's see. Another item is the faculty and staff awards. You heard the president talk about the fact that we, the faculty senate, and the staff group, Jesse Reel, are working together on helping with some preparations for the event. I believe April 27. It's a Friday. It's going to be in the evening, and the attire is, I guess you could call it after 5 attire or casual chic or something like that. It's not black tie. So, and we'll keep you posted on that. I'm actually in the process of we're gonna put a committee together to look at the awards, ask for nominations, and look at the applications, that kind of thing. And we're also proposing that staff have an annual award along the lines of what faculty have. If you look at staff right now, they only have one award, and that's the STAR Award, and it's a monthly thing. It's just a little thing. There is a new award that I think it's the equivalent of the Rhoda, if you guys are familiar with the Rhoda Award, but it's not going to take place until sometime late summer. So what I think the discussion has been is that the staff would like to have an annual award to recognize the good work that they do along the lines of faculty as well. And we'll keep you posted on that as well. Any questions about this item? How many of you like this idea of having a staff award annual? Yes, I think the other thing is if you look at the strategic plan, if you listen to Dr. Tidwell, if you see what he has been trying to do, almost everything I have seen involves faculty and staff. Provost Miriam early in his said, good as our faculty. If I might amend that a little bit to say, we're as good as our faculty and staff, right? So everybody counts is what I'm saying. So, okay, so we have two additional items. One is about the Graduate Professional Student Association Week. And then we have a little bit of an update about the history of UT Tyler Book Project, if that's all right. And then we'll transition into presentation. So,
thank you, Dr. Mokhtari. My name is Mike Giordano. I'm here representing the Graduate School today. And we have coming up in early April, the Graduate Student Appreciation Week. It should be a lot of fun. But what I'm really here to talk to you about mostly is the Grad School 180 contest. And this is a research contest for all graduate students. And I'm hoping that you can all bring it back to your students and talk it up for us a little bit. It's called Grad School 180 because they have 180 seconds to give a presentation on their research. This presentation is something that brings the research home, tells why it's important to everybody, not just people in their field. So it needs to be accessible to everybody. If I could, okay. I'm going to beg your indulgence for 178 seconds to watch a presentation, just to give you an idea what this is like. Because I could talk about it all day and never get the exact flavor of it for you. So I've found a presentation that kind of gets the flavor of what these presentations are like. This is a finalist for a presentation given at a similar competition at another, and it's coming up. Yeah. And this was at the University of Queensland. And thank you.
Input.
So that's just an example of what these presentations are like. And you'll notice he had one slide that he used, which is a limitation of the contest. You get one slide, and it's usually something pretty simple because you don't want to have something crowded with text and stuff. It was 3 minutes. You'll notice he finished 2 seconds early. If you go over the 3-minute limit, the 180-second limit, you get penalized for every second you're over the limit. So it forces the student to really get to the meat of their research. And you notice how engaging he was. They're also looking to find people who are going to engage the audience and really get the point of their research across. The competition is being held on April 5th at the OAC. The first prize is $500, second prize is $250, and third prize is $125. So there's a lot of incentive for people to do this and to do well in it. And I hope that you can all talk it up with your students and give them, an idea of what's coming up. The deadline to sign up is February 28th. And if you have any questions, or if they have any questions, feel free to email us at ogs@uttyler.edu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Thank you. Just a quick comment. This reminded me of, in my field, there's a group of researchers who have been advocating for the need for us to not publish papers in journals. You could say everything you can say 40 pages in one page. Interesting kind of concept. And you really can say it in one page if you wanted to. You don't have the details, but that's the concept. So you can actually do all kinds of stuff in 3 minutes. So anyway, so the last item on our agenda before we go into the presentation, Dr. Stein's presentation, is Mary and Colin, or one of you or both of you, if you could share a little bit about where we are on the history of
the project. Yes, the project is in its final phase of data collecting and getting all the information together. We are hopeful that work will begin with the writing as well as interviewing in early summer 2018, with a conclusion of the end of spring 2019. So we're putting all of the development material together as today, and hopefully we'll begin in about 2 months. Is that right? We have our lists and we're checking them twice.
Thank you. So it is exactly 11:30, I think. 12:30 is what I meant, 12:29. So we are now going to go into Dr. Stein's presentation. And you guys need to stand up and get a little something, and cookies are coming. They're here? Okay. And they're very good. They're very good. Okay, awesome. So why don't we take about 2 or 3 minutes, if you guys can get a little cookies and coffee or something, and then we'll get Dr. Stein introduced and she can get her presentation taken care of. Okay. Hey, how are you? Good, good. Julie, you're not eating. Oh, huh? Oh, okay. Okay. I hope you don't mind me saying what I said about this session yesterday. It's really right here. Yeah, yeah. Let's get some cookies and stuff. And there's some lunch too. Hi, how are you? It's good to see you. Have you had lunch?
Yes, sir, I did.
Good. I just have some cookies. So I hope this has been helpful.
It's been wonderful.
Good, good, good. Awesome.
I'm gonna start coming if I can. The last couple
Please.
times I've been so busy.
Love to have you new here. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You bet. You bet. So, hey. Hey. How are you? Good. How are you doing? I think I'm going to have some soup or something.
Oatmeal raisins good.
All right. Oh, sure, absolutely. I hope it worked okay.
Yeah, I hope I got the.
Actually, I have some students doing some project.
Excellent. Yeah, it's going to be great. Well, it's going to be a great competition. We've got a lot of students already signed up for it. We want to get more and get a lot of interest going. We really highlight research.
Of course. Tomorrow I'll meet with them in person.
Sounds great. Thank you. Hello. How are you? Pretty good. How are you? Great. Pretty good. How are you? Good to see you. That's great because they don't like other dogs. Of course, they got all great. They don't dislike other dogs. They just don't like them.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello? Hi, everybody. I think we may be running out of battery. Okay. Battery's down. Huh? Running out of battery. You do? Oh, good. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so your ending time is 1:30?
150.
1:50. Okay, even longer than I thought.
I'm going to move back. Sure. Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me? Those of you on Zoom, sorry for this interruption. We are going to go ahead and resume. I am absolutely delighted to have Dr. Stein, Deborah Stein here from Carnegie Mellon University. Dr. Stein is professor of the practice for the Engineering and Public Policy Department and associate director for policy outreach for the Scott Institute for Energy Innovation. Did I say that right? Dr. Stein has an incredible and has had an amazing career in both teaching and research and policy and so forth. I'm going to ask her, I've asked her to see if she would consider talking a little bit about her background before she starts her presentation, if that's okay. Awesome. With that, Dr. Stein, you're on. Thank you for being here. We're glad to have you.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to start with my background, and I'm going to warn you as of now that this is meant to be an interactive session. I do not believe in the 50-minute, hour-and-a-half lecture. I believe you best learn by dialogue. So if somebody like this gentleman here is at a table alone, I need you to relocate to tables that have people at them. So anybody, if you don't have at least 4 or 5 people, at your table, or if somebody wants to escape at the end and not listen to what I have to say, there you go. Yeah, so you have to have sort of some good balance. So I do like to forewarn that. And these gentlemen here, perhaps they might like to relocate to other tables so that they do things. So as everybody is relocating, and I notice it's further from me, but luckily. So I sort of tell you a little bit about my background. Is my dad was in the Air Force. I lived all over the Southwest, but I went to all 4 years of high school in San Antonio. Nobody in Texas would call me a Texan, but everybody on the East Coast calls me a Texan. I call myself a Caltex because I was born in Southern California, and I spent a lot of time in Southern California. I did, thank you. I went to engineering school in mechanical environmental engineering at University of California, Irvine. Then I went back to Texas, got my MBA at what is now Texas A&M at Corpus Christi. I don't know if there's still the battle between Texas A&M and UT as there still was, but I see nodding heads, so that seems to be the case. In where I'm at now at Carnegie Mellon, there's a similar battle between the University of Pittsburgh and Penn State, so I feel quite at home in that area. I spent 5 years as a field engineer for the state of Texas, and I know it's really hard looking at me, but I used to climb a couple 100-foot smokestacks, monitor pollution, all these other things at times. And I know I tell my students that, and they say, really? And I said, yes, and that's why I'm in as bad a shape as I am now. I used to use asbestos inspections. I used to do all sorts of things. During that time, in my Texas days, I was in a year in Beaumont and 4 years in Corpus Christi. I became very interested in public policy. I became president of the League of Women Voters in Corpus Christi and on the state board directors for League of Women Voters of Texas. And that is where I learned probably one of the most important skills for my career, which is consensus building. And that became the basis of my career in Washington, where I was for about 30 years. Most of my time was at the National Committee of Sciences, National Engineering. I was there for about 18 years. That is an honorific organization that people are elected to for their contributions to medicine. I ran committees of those experts on topics, everything from greenhouse gas mitigation to human reproductive cloning, to interdisciplinary research, and that is what led me here today. I went from there to work for Congress. So I worked for the Congressional Research Service, which is a think tank for Congress, at Senator Library of Congress, and I provided advice to members of Congress and their staff. I then went to the White House, and I was executive director of something called PCAS, which is a President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, which also is a committee of experts. And there I did all sorts of different things, including STEM education, flu, advanced manufacturing, nanotechnology, you sort of name it. So I've done lots of different fields. And the one thing I can tell you is the reason I was able to do all that work and study was because I had an interdisciplinary background. So while my interdisciplinary background was quite valued in Washington, it is less valued in academia. So if I now am, I've been in academia now for 5 years at Carnegie Mellon. They have an engineering public policy department, and I spend half the time there as a professor teaching classes, and the other half of the time for the Scott Institute for Energy Innovation, where I do basically public and policymaker outreach and focus on entrepreneurial education. I run student competitions in energy innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm now going to be leading a new center that's also on energy and entrepreneurial excellence. So I'm really into this whole innovation thing. And that includes academia. I'm one of those people that if I was king for a day, I would get rid of tenure. And because, So I just want to forewarn you, I am on the radical edge of things. And I know that, but I'm perfectly fine. With that, I always think things need to shake up again. I still am trying to understand academia and academic economics. But it's been a very useful experience. After years of Washington doing policy from the top down, I'm now able to do it from the bottom up. I will say I was able to meet with the President Obama several times. He's just like he is on TV, as I tell people Joe Biden is, who's like a real talker. but I'm going to tell one President Obama story that's going to sort of illustrate the difference between Washington and academia. So if like one comment President Obama used to make, which I always used to like, says, you know, being president of the United States is like you're captain of a ship and you're trying to push it this way and the current is trying to push it the other way. And it's a very hard thing to do. And I would guess, having been in academia for a while, even at a very innovative institution, that it's even harder to be president of a university and make change than it is to be president of the United States of America. Now, maybe I'm wrong about that, but it is, you're always kind of pushing against the tide, you're pushing against traditions, you're really trying to sort of change things. And oftentimes, you find when you're in a leadership position, you have to sort of set priorities and set goals and strategies for the time that you're there, because you know that your time is coming to an end. And just as is the case with the President of the United States, not all presidents, not all provosts, no vice presidents of research, department chairs last forever. And you have to, if you want to try though to leave your legacy, try to leave your stamp on the institution, and you only have a certain amount of time to do it. And so prioritization and strategy is a big thing. And so I say that as entry because this is something we're going to focus on during this kind of interactive session that we have today. So I'm now going to play a very short video. It's only like, I think, a minute. It is from a professor at Carnegie Mellon who made a presentation at the World Economic Forum. And I'm going to hit the play button and hope that it works.
At Carnegie Mellon University, I work on what I call profiling humans from their voice. Every voice in the world is unique, like fingerprint and information. My entire research group at Carnegie Mellon University is moving towards one goal, and that is to be able to reduce all of this information and to be able to recreate the entire human persona, including a voice. Most factors that influence your voice manifest as micro-signatures that are not visible to traditional analysis. We use powerful artificial intelligence techniques to discover these microsignatures and to map them to your personal attributes such as your age, your weight, your height, your ethnicity, where you are in the country, and many more. Currently, this work, which I call the science of macro-attribute imagery, is at its infancy. But one day, very soon, we will be able to reconstruct your facial structure and your entire personality.
Okay, so in case you didn't get that, somebody like me talking right now, based on artificial intelligence, she can tell everything about me. She can figure out where I'm from. She can figure out my weight, my height, my personality, if I have diseases, all sorts of things. Now, some people might find that scary, which is why my class is undertaking this project, because what the class I teach now is on new tech commercialization, looking at public policy strategies, because there's lots of issues related to privacy around it. I'm going to give two, so she came and spoke to my class, and I'm going to give two examples of real world application. So there's evil players out there who, what they do is they send false SOSs to the Coast Guard. And they say SOS, and the law, the public policy is that every time the Coast Guard gets an SOS, they're required to respond. But obviously, you know, it's A, dangerous, B, very costly to respond to SOS. So they had this one character who did like 5 of these in a short period of time. With less than 30 seconds of those SOS calls, she was able to figure out where the person was in terms of the location, what the origin was of that person, and like a zillion other kinds of things. Okay, so from a law enforcement standpoint, that's like an important thing. Just think about, let's say, bomb threats at schools and things like that. So from a social good, that's it. The other thing is that it turns out that if you have a disease like Parkinson's, for example, it shows up in your voice before it shows up in any other biomarker. So with this technology, you can listen to the voice, and you can do some preliminary catching. So like I have a family, for example, that has a history of Parkinson's disease. So just like, there might be a gene or something like that, by voice, you might be able to know your likelihood of actually having the disease and catch it earlier, which obviously will hopefully help solve the problem. So now that I've sort of explained this, and I just want this to sort of be a shout out, what disciplines do you think are involved in this work besides artificial intelligence? Medicine, yes, but even further than in medicine, what in medicine? Psychology, yeah. What was that? Communications, neuroscience, engineering, speech therapy. I'll add in drama, right? Because there's a lot of things related to drama. It turns out that there are 30 different disciplines that would be involved with the work that I just described. And that's a lot of different things, right? So here you have something like when she describes it, right, it sounds like super techie, right? But the reality is it's not just, like all the credit will go to artificial intelligence, but it's really all those different disciplines that will contribute to making this something that is beneficial for society. And that to me is why, is a good example of why interdisciplinary research and education, because I like to put the two together, is important. So any questions about that? No? Don't ask me anything about the technology, that's all. I'm gonna left, going on one way. Sorry, I thought I switched to left, but it seems to go back here. I did. Oh, by the way, this Scotty is the mascot of Carnegie Mellon University. I found this, isn't that cute? Okay, great. Oh, oops. No, this isn't a slideshow. Oh, even better. Okay. Okay, so this is your first activity. At your table, I want you to think about, and there's cards, by the way, on the table. So I want you to take like 15 seconds to think about this. You'll be using these cards. Oh, yeah, you will be using these cards repeatedly. So the first is, what societal academic problem would you like to solve? But you need help of others to sort of advance it. And then I want you to kind of think about at your table if there's anybody that you could partner with, okay? Oh, it's a laser printer. Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't even need that part. Hopefully you can do that. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do this. That is to think about a societal problem you want to focus on and find a partner at your table that you could work with on it. And it cannot be somebody from your own department. Yeah, so if you guys are all like the nursing school or whatever, forget it, go to another table. No, you can have multiples. Yes, you can have multiple. So I'm just looking for you to find somebody else. It doesn't even have to be at your table to pair with on your societal problem. That. And if there's nobody here, then you can just sort of name the person, name the topic.
Trying to think of a way.
Okay, you have 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Oh, that's video.
Any specialty, I mean, like police versus criminal justice, you know, that doesn't make any difference. It doesn't matter.
Like audio and.
Okay, 1 minute. 1 minute. Thirty seconds. Ten seconds. Okay, time is up. Time is up. Okay, so I'm play to kill this. Okay, so I'm going to go around to each table. And I just want one person to give their revelations. Okay, so this table here, who would like to volunteer? Oh, hi. Thank you for volunteering.
Well, anytime. Well, because no matter where we go, we were going to be with our department because we had so many people here. So we just chose something completely outside of nursing and pharmacy.
Okay.
So we wanted to look at gun violence in schools.
Okay, good.
Gun violence in schools. Yeah, exactly. So do you want the people we came up with?
Yes, exactly.
Some of them that we came up with, because I'm not sure I got them all down. Other people can chime in. We need educators, mental health specialists, psychology, criminal justice, social science, social work, policymakers, counselors, lobbyists, students, families, architects, technology people. What else did I miss?
Nurses and pharmacists.
And pharmacists.
Okay, great. No, thank you. That was an excellent job. Okay, let me see. Oh, you look like a nice, friendly person.
Oh, goodness.
You're welcome.
We didn't get quite as an exhaustive list because we were kind of sharing stories, but we are from English, focusing on writing and rhetoric, from pharmacy and nursing. And we were talking about medication errors in the hospital and that it doesn't involve just pharmacy and just nursing. We were relating that for patients, they can feel very disconcerted when you are asking the same questions over and over of them if they don't understand why we have those protocols in place. So we talked about the psychology of that and how we explain that to patients. We talked about packaging errors that have happened, and that's kind of the, I believe it's a field of engineering that's human design factors, human factors. Thank you. And so there were lots of different disciplines involved. We were talking about Dennis Quaid's twins that were given the wrong strength of heparin. I think it was 1,000-fold of what it should have been because the pharmacy tech stocked the wrong one, the nurses didn't check it, and the packaging was light blue versus medium blue at the time. And that's how that error happened. And his twins thankfully survived but almost died. And so that was what we came up with. It involved a lot.
Great, that sounds good. Okay. Oh, you look like a nice friendly person.
Oh my. Okay, well, we looked at a problem for hurricane recovery along the coast of Texas, and we looked at the children that have been involved in it and how resilient are they, and we came up with all kinds of disciplines that we would need. We would need, of course, education because children are in the educational setting. We would need psychology because of that impact on resiliency. And I looked at it from a nursing standpoint on how can we work with those families to build resiliency. And then we decided that we needed someone who could do some geospatial mapping, so they're bringing in engineering to see if there are clusters of people who are having difficulty with resiliency or need help with building resiliency.
Okay, so good job there. Great, thank you. Okay, I realize I'm being female dominated here, so you look like a nice person.
Oh, okay. I guess. Okay. All right. So, one of the problems that we talked about here is a problem that relates to my own discipline. I'm in the business of working with children who have reading problems, and I need help with all sorts of other types of areas of expertise: vision, hearing, brain-related kind of science, those kinds of things. So.
No, just one per table.
Okay. Oh, here's another male voice. There you go.
We talked about briefly climate change, and from a biology and history and psychology perspective, we talked a little bit about climate change denial and the history of that and the psychology, interesting psychological implications of denying actual science. And then we have a historian that works in Mesoamerica, and so we talked a little bit about water in the Andes and decline in native water supplies, damming rivers in Brazil, repeating all of the same mistakes that we made in our own country with climate change, and briefly touched on endangered species.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so, oh, you have one over there, go ahead.
For us, we looked at stress in the workplace and how costly it is, not only to the organization, but to the overall economy. And therefore, that's something that we feel that we can address by combining people coming from the music background for stress relieving, combining that with people from the kinesiology background in the area of exercise and physical activity, and also to look at in terms of statistics and the impact of people taking time off from work because of stress-related issues. We need an economist. We need people from human resource background. We need a statistician, and we not only need psychologists to address the overall well-being of the workers. Thank you.
So that was great. I'm gonna, on this last point, I'm gonna give one example that's on sort of the stress issue. So I'm part of the Carnegie Mellon's Faculty Senate, and we just had a big vote last week. And Carnegie Mellon is known as sort of a very stressful student environment. I'm sure that nobody's going to be shocked in this room to hear it. So the vote was, when should we have the drop date? So currently, students can drop at 10 weeks. And the feeling is that that causes a problem because we do a lot of project courses and things like that, kind of like we're doing here. So the feeling was it should be moved back to 2 weeks. So students would only have 2 weeks to decide whether or not to drop a class. Not very much time. So the question is, would that make the situation for students more stressful or less stressful? First, the student council opposed this change, but then they were brought around because students, as a compromise, students are given 3 waivers. So you have 3 chances over the course of your 4 years as an undergraduate, or 1 per year as a master's student, to drop a course up to the very end of class with no penalty. So that was sort of the compromise that was reached. However, there still was a lot of question as to whether or not moving it to 2 weeks would create more or less stress. And if students would use up all their get out of jail free card, all in the first year, and what would happen in year 4 when they need to drop a class in order to graduate. So it remained, and by the way, it took 1.5 years to get to this agreement. That's proposed agreement. So the faculty senate voted upon it and ended up going with the plan, what they call Plan A, I believe, which is 6 weeks as sort of a initial stage, which would be we're in a semester system, so just before midterms, for a lot of folks and things like that. And then it turned out that there's been new technology developed that you can, surveys and so forth on stress. So during this time period, we recommended that there would be analysis done on the amount of stress on students. Did 6 weeks reduce it? Would 2 weeks be better? I personally was thinking 4 weeks, because by 4 weeks, I think you know whether or not you're going to do well in a class or not. 2 weeks is a little bit too early. Nobody, by the way, went for my idea, of course. But it was all this kind of human research and psychology research and things like that for something which is very important, not only to our university, but to universities around the country who who have an issue with suicide rates and things like that. So I was going to mention that as a good example of trying to bring in other research and other data, as opposed to just relying on, let's just pick 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it might be. So I'm now going to move to the next thing here, which is, so what is interdisciplinary research? And this is a cartoon, which is from the Facilitating Interdisciplinary Research book that I worked at the National Academies, which basically says, I'm on the verge of a major breakthrough, but I'm also at the point where chemistry leaves off and physics begins, so I have to just drop the whole thing. So when we're talking about some of these important societal issues, I don't think you just necessarily want to drop it, right? Because, you're going to have to talk to somebody from another discipline and spend some time and so forth. You are probably in the business because you care about societal issues. So this is, I understand all you guys are sort of members of the Senate, or most of you members of the Senate. This is your definition that I was sent. This country says, I can remember when all we needed was someone who could carve and someone who could sew over at Santa's workshop there. So I looked at this and I could tell that it was based on the definition from the report that I worked on, which is this report. And I wanted to go add in the other parts of the definition. And the reason why I said that, and I realize this might not be perfect for this university, but I think it's really important to be explicit about interdisciplinary research because it can be defined many different ways, and it's best to agree upon a common definition. So if I'm a mechanical engineer and I work with a civil engineer who's in the next department, is that interdisciplinary research? Say we're working on some environmental problem. To me, that is not interdisciplinary research, okay? It only works if I'm a mechanical engineer and say that I'm trying to, well, like I'll give an example for one of our departments. I'm working with a psychologist that is a decision scientist. And so we're trying to, so this study, which actually this is not something I worked on, but somebody else worked on. So what it is you get an energy bill, and sometimes it'll have a happy face or a sad face, depending on how much energy you use, okay? So if you were not very energy efficient, you get what? The sad face. And if you do, you know, you get a happy face, and if you just are the same, then you get kind of, you know, like a neutral sort of thing. Well, there's actually psychologists who study that, and they found, like this company which does this, which is called O-Power in California, that it actually does make a difference to do a happy face versus a sad face. And you also find out in energy efficiency that it's not, you would think that the reason you want to save energy is what? Let's just name something. Money, right? That's what I thought. You know what? It's not money, right? Because energy in the United States is like super cheap. The reason people want to save energy is because they want to save the world. You know, so if you tell them like energy from power plants is causing air pollution, and this air pollution is causing asthma for children in Pittsburgh, which is all true, by the way. We have one of the worst asthma rates in the entire country. You're much more likely to reduce your energy consumption than if I just said, okay, you're going to save $2 a month on your energy bill. And they've done this with different levels, and it takes a lot of money to make you want to change your energy habits. But you give them a social good, and it sort of makes a difference. So I think this is sort of important to think about exactly what you mean and what the scope involves. So here's your second activity. Okay, so this is for me to sort of understand, I will call this the status quo in policy analysis terms, which is what current opportunities could you take advantage of to do what you just talked about? In other words, what within either the UT Tyler system, what in say federal funding, whatever you're thinking about, people that you could talk to, what would help you just with spending no money, doing nothing else? What would be the current situation? And what challenges that you face? And then what could the administration take to facilitate your project? Okay, got that? 3 questions. I'm going to give you, do you want 5 minutes or 10 minutes? 5 minutes. Okay. 1.5 minutes. 1.5 minutes. $40. Oh, microphone in. Yeah.
Of release.
Everybody hear that? Time is up. Time is up. Okay. We're going to rotate and we're going to start with this table. It can't be the same person who spoke before. Oh, look at this person looking at her phone. She would like to respond.
Our project was improving communication between different people in a hospital to prevent medication errors. So we were talking about opportunities. In Tyler, we have part of the UT system is the UT Health Northeast Hospital. So there's already an administrative partnership there, people already having meetings. And so we could leverage the existing partnerships to create work, like a work group on this. And between the two entities, excuse me, there are existing offices to help pursue interdisciplinary grants, which you might not be able to access if it's just a single discipline. For challenges, funding is always a challenge. Also in academia and medicine, you tend to be siloed. You know your language that you speak with your colleagues and your research terminology really well, but translating that for people, you know, who do funding, or, you know, nurses or students or doctors and academics, takes more time and expertise to figure out how to communicate with those people. What actions might UT Tyler administration take to facilitate? Granting course releases, or figuring out how someone who is on the staff level could fit this into their 40-hour work week. So figuring out, like, maybe from an HR perspective or budgeting perspective, how to make this count in terms of your salary or your wage.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me see. Okay, who spoke last? Yes, it was Anita. Okay.
Okay, so our group was looking at community disaster preparedness and looking for a grant for, pairing nurses and educators and psychologists and so forth on looking at resilience and the community becoming whole again. So there is actually a grant that they've been thinking about. It's Hurricane Recovery Foundation. It's based at the University of Houston. Because this really is a big scale grant and it's interdisciplinary. Our problem with a lot of grants is that, with large scale grants, is that because we're small, we don't have all the expertise. So we're probably going to have to go outside of UT Tyler. UT Tyler does have an engineering center in Houston already, so we have some engineering faculty down there. They presumably also have ties to other engineering places down there as well, and other things in that community. So what we're going to be looking at is finding people. They may be in other institutions with the UT system, or they may be outside the UT system, different people at other institutions that might be well paired with our grant. In terms of what the UT Tyler administration can do. So I work in the research office, so I will try to help faculty with whatever stuff they need to try and get their grant prepared. But we also have something else going on, which I'm going to let my boss talk about because I don't know the details of it.
Yeah, it's hurricane thing. So there's a big initiative in Texas for hurricane recovery and resilience. So we are a part of a consortium. So we're just starting to get on this interdisciplinary thing. So this is actually very timely for us.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, and I will mention, just as an aside, in case you don't know this already, is that what we have found is that in order to get grants these days, because there's such limited funds at the federal level, we must enter into partnerships with other universities. So, for example, we have one with West Virginia University, University of Pittsburgh, with its that's started us, and then Case Western, just on everything. And I talked about earlier that I'm starting to work in Northwestern, but eventually it'll be like probably like 10 or 20 or even 50 different universities will be associated with it, because you cannot be successful these days on any major grant without having at least 3 to 5 universities. And also it has multi-space. Sometimes people bring me in as a policy person because there we go. This is off. Because the NSF program director says, I want a policy person on your proposal committee. And they call me and say, hey, we need a policy person. And it makes a difference. So anything that's in a major way. Okay, so who spoke last? I know you spoke last time.
Okay, so we kind of got sidetracked at our table talking about something else. But, when we actually started with number 3, because we felt like before we really could do anything, we had to have administrative support. And administrative support, one of the biggest things is having an open mind and being able to take risk and to maybe venture into some areas that are untraveled, so to speak. And of course, with the obvious funding, work release time, research assistance, administrative support, those kinds of things that are on the side that are so incredibly valuable, that take up so much of faculty time. So that kind of support. But going into current, and you're going to have to help me, I'm going to make wild guesses about current opportunities to address children with reading problems and disabilities. I think our current opportunities is the incredible expertise at UT Tyler, but in terms of psychology, communication, and we were talking about engineering, but I think too, we're in an area, with other expertise in universities and colleges, and we could always reach out to a UT system. UT system, I think, has incredible resources, and we have resources through UT system who could help maybe connect. And I think maybe that's something we do need to focus maybe more on. And I don't, with Tony and whatever. So, the networking, again, I think it's just reaching out to the community and into other academic institutions. And I think our biggest challenge is time.
Yes, that's where it's going on. And what you should do as a UT school is read out to Texas A&M. Isn't there Texas A&M at Galveston or something?
There is one, College Station.
Well, not College Station. Well, yes. Oh, yeah.
I think in East Texas, I think they are promoting community health. I think it's something I think we can work together.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Who do we have here? Oh, you look like a nice young person.
You'd be surprised. So for ours, opportunities with regards to questions of, we settled upon sort of local water supplies and riverine projects and climate change. In terms of funding, that was not as big of an issue because of our esteemed colleague here who generates the big bucks in water resources and his networking abilities. I think the biggest issue we were facing was really not even so much on the administration side, because it would fit within interdisciplinary projects that affect the local economy. But the challenge would be really just in the sheer, for lack of a better word, ignorance of the public about climate issues and the difficulties in communicating to them in a clear fashion the threat of climate change and how to sort of recognize things that are occurring on a daily basis but that aren't so immediately apparent to them. And we were sort of talking about these sort of indicator species where if the climate starts to go south, they die before we do. And we were talking about the sort of, we all know about the canary in the coal mine, but that was because coal miners would die. And how do you sort of translate that into a circumstance where it isn't just mass death on a daily basis amongst the human population? So those are sort of the three areas, like the opportunities and the actions from the administration weren't so difficult, but the challenges would be rather severe.
Great, thanks. And this, so I work a lot in that area, and there's an awful lot that you can do, but you have to kind of like go to them. So you have to actually, reach out to whatever it is here, Rotary Club or whatever, and just say, hey, we have somebody from the university who's available to talk about the potential impact of climate change in Tyler, and then be prepared for a very lively discussion. Yes. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'll come back. I forgot to introduce you.
Okay, our issue was gun violence in schools. And so the current opportunities are recent events, upcoming elections, a national emphasis on the mental health crisis, lack of providers, lack of access, and networking. Some of our challenges are the NRA and Second Amendment rights, poor screening and easy access to weapons, and security of school sites, or lack of. So what actions might be taken? Well, as the rest of you said, administration can support interdisciplinary research. UT Tyler can provide community outreach on these issues through public forums and community education. The engineering school can work with school architects on site security systems, and training to teachers on identification, de-escalation, and reporting of individuals with these tendencies.
So our topic was how the stress in the work environment, and since music and in kinesiology there aren't many funding opportunity, so if we connect this with psychology, economy, and other disciplines, we think that there are more funding opportunities, like for instance, somewhere like National Institute of Health, NIH, and it's great collaboration and networking opportunity for us, and it's a creative solution to decrease stress and study about it. And the possible challenges that we might face is bringing the team together, since this is a big of a impact potential, so much of potential, but at the same time, because it's involving many disciplines, timing and having the team together might be very challenging. And so we think department and UT Tyler, is it UT Tyler? UT Tyler administration give us faculty some release time from teaching, so we can dedicate the study and more funding opportunities.
Thank you. So faculty release time seems to be a big issue here. So let's see here. So you might not be able to read this. So for those of you who have the digital version, so this is the results of a survey that was done about 10 years ago at 10 universities that looked at interdisciplinary research and the barriers to it. And just like a quick going around is seed funding and incubation grants, fostering interdisciplinary culture with workshop speakers and so forth, providing logistical support for grant seeking, application reviews, project management, increasing joint appointments and cluster hires, making tenure and promotion more receptive to interdisciplinary scholarship, ensuring indirect cost, foster rather than peer collaboration, and then increasing development fundraising targeted to interdisciplinary projects. So one thing that nobody mentioned, but I'd like to propose as a possibility is I think that students are the best way to have carrier pigeons that go back and forth between disciplines. So that if you have undergraduate students who are taught by faculty in different departments, the faculty just basically have to get together. They have to get together to teach. Now, it does not work if you do team teaching and one faculty member comes in week one and talks about energy, and the second faculty member comes in and talks about economics, and they do not listen to what each other has to say, either if they're in the room or if they do not attend the other lecture. So I do not mean team teaching. I mean a true collaboration, and that it be ideally across colleges, not even departments, but that can vary somewhat. That graduate students and postdocs, that they have mentors from multiple colleges and universities and so forth. So we talked about the need, for example, to have 2 universities involved. Well, one really good way to do that is to have 2 students working together, say, one from here, one from, say, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, working on some hurricane, something or another. And then they can bring bridges across universities. And then another way you can do that is to have instrumentation and equipment. That's something else where people can really sort of interact with each other. And then leadership is basically key, because if you don't have leadership, then it's not going to happen. I was telling you earlier about a story, like I was talking to working with another university, and in disciplinary research, they had a new provost. He'd been there a year. He was really hot on this topic. The faculty rebelled, and he had to step down from the provost position, and that was the end of interdisciplinary research. at that institution. Now, I'm sure they probably still do something, but it's not at the level that it used to be. So this says, if you can't see this, it says there's like physics and biology. I can't even read the one in the back. It says, who is it? Humanities, thank you. I guess the English, right? Says, I understand they're going to connect them. The provost ordered it, right? So you have to have somebody who says that, otherwise it's not a priority. So this is a list that I came up with based on the little that I know about UT Tyler, which is basically focusing on project-based courses that talk about regional opportunities and challenges. So one way to start to create interactions is to have a project-based course, say focused on a local problem. What do we talk about? Oh yeah, what's the one that's local? I can't remember now. Was it, no, it wasn't drugs, it wasn't stress, it was something else. What was it? The reading one? No, it wasn't reading, it's one of the right here. Well, let's just say it's medical errors, okay. So the key is to say, well, something like medical errors involves a lot of things. The first step before maybe a research product is to establish a relationship with the existing organizations. So what in a project course, what happens is that there's a client from outside the university, a real world client. The students, interact with that client, and also an advisory committee. On the advisory committee, that's a good way to bring in, again, outside people. So the advisory committee is not just people, say at the hospital or whatever, but also from, say, a patient group or a non-government organization, or even just a person whose mom died from a medical error, right? And those people form an advisory group that the students work with. And that becomes a good way for the faculty to get to better know the community by working through the students. And then that work can lead to a longer term effort. It's a good way for relationship building for both faculty, because the faculty, multiple faculty are involved in this, not just one faculty member. Seed grants, we sort of talked about that, but I want to emphasize this is seed grants that go beyond just research, but talk about things like student research, quality of life, service learning, competitions, all these kinds of things. Like somebody talked about the 3-minute thesis. We have the 3-minute thesis at Carnegie Mellon. It's run by our library, actually. And that is also a good way for people to know what's going on because of the research activity. Then seed grants to work on regional projects. So where you're really focusing on, like we were talking about hurricanes and so forth, like that. Virtual institutes or hubs of research or education, which is not the same thing as a center. A virtual institute is maybe having one person, like there's an executive director for, say, like in my case, the Scott Institute for Innovation, or for another example, having there's Brain Hub, where it involves lots of different disciplines. And there's only like maybe one staff person who's in charge of like organizing it, and maybe a faculty director who just takes, gets some leave time from their regular faculty position to help direct it intellectually, and for the staff person to kind of help herd the cats together. Faculty hiring, you can do all sorts of different things for faculty hiring, things that were mentioned earlier, we'll say cluster hires, having people hired in 2 departments. My department is almost entirely dual department hired. So somebody will be hired equally by the economics department and by engineering, or by history and engineering. So we really have those kind of multi-dimensional hires, and they're 50-50 for each, paid by each, and how they're evaluated as part of our tenure and promotion guidelines, which is the next thing. Another issue is sort of like indirect cost recovery. Example I have in your materials is that UT Tyler offers a bonus from cost recovery, not UT El Paso offers a bonus when students from faculty work on interdisciplinary projects together. That to help advance their research, because as somebody said earlier, it takes more time than if you just kind of work on the field that you already know. And then assessment, there's a number of survey tools out there that can be used to both gather an understanding of the opportunities and challenges to interdisciplinary research here, as well as monitor how well the different programs are working. So this is the 4 E's. And this is basically which of these actions, it doesn't have to be these, but any of the ones you suggested, based on these 4E criteria, would you recommend? Okay, and this is going to have to be, because I'm running out of time, our last discussion item, even though I have others here. And so the first is effectiveness. Is it likely to work? Efficiency, is it the best bang for the buck? Equity, who are the winners and who are the losers? And ease of political acceptability, which is basically, you know, will there be people out there other than you, right, other than this, a group that's invested in disciplinary research who are likely to support it or to oppose it? Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I want one answer. That's all you're going to get. You're going to get like one word to say what it is that you would suggest based on these 4E criteria. Okay? Ready, set, go. Pick. Okay, so. Oh, you're focused on the phrase. So what you're supposed to do is, like an example, like I gave you some additional ideas, right? Okay, we heard things about faculty release time as an example, if you do something. We heard other ideas, outreach activities, and so forth. Okay, so for all those different ideas, okay, I want you to pick one and tell me what it is in like one word, 2 words at the most, okay? But I want you to pick it in discussion based on this 4E criteria. You can't just pick what you like. You gotta look at it from the policymaker's perspective. And if you were the president of UT Tyler and you wanted one action to come out of this event, what would you want it to be? You got it? I'm talking about action items, right? This is like all of you were supposed to come up with one. I mean, you came up with lots of ideas about things to do in response to the previous one. In terms of like, remember the last question was, what could the UT administration do, right? Okay, now, after hearing all the ideas, after hearing some new ideas I threw into the pot, what would be the #1 thing you would do? The whole plethora. It doesn't have to be your own idea. It might be like you really like this idea or that idea, right? So, because remember, a university administrator has to cover the entire campus. Thank you. Okay, great, thank you. Got 3 minutes. So 2 minutes. Okay, 1 minute. 1 minute. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, everybody, time is up. Time is up. Okay, now I'm not going to give everybody quiet in the courthouse. Quiet in the courthouse. Quiet in the courthouse. Okay, I'm not even going to give anybody the microphone. Okay, I want you as a table to shout out your answer. 2 words or less.
Student research? Student research.
Student research was the answer. Okay. Okay, and I should say, what level of students?
Undergrad.
Undergraduate student research. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, 2 words.
Culture of scholarship.
What was it? Culture of scholarship. Culture of scholarship. Okay, boy, that's like a highfalutin term. I just don't know how that would be defined. You know, Nash County's committee. Okay. What's this group?
Workload adjustment.
Okay, what's this group over here?
Awareness and solutions.
Oh, no. What can the university do? Awareness. Oh, I'm sorry, you're saying awareness. Okay, public awareness. Public awareness is the answer. Do you guys know? I didn't do you guys. Yeah, okay. What do you guys say?
Workload adjustment, stress in the workplace.
Workload adjustment, stress in the workplace. I know I have 5 minutes left. Thank you, sir. These are, of course, all brilliant solutions. Okay, so this is how would you measure success. Now, we're not going to have time to do the aforementioned activity, but I want you to sort of think about that you need to know in 5 years, as I like to tell people, when, something happens. It could be the economy, it could be a new governor, it could be a new head of the board of governors of the UT system, who I remember having a lot of controversy a number of years ago. What is it? And then the one over there that says interdisciplinary madness is from PhD Comics, and that is the perspective from a student side. In other words, from their perspective, it can be very challenging in terms of what it is they do. So we always want to keep in mind the students as part of this. This is the last slide, and I'm going to end on time because you know what? I'm an engineer, and my trains start on my time, and my trains end on time. And I want you to know that I am giving you guys the gold ribbon for successes in IDR. So that little student on the left is going to be someday a successful research in interdisciplinary research. Thank you very much.
Do you all have a copy of her 2 handouts? There is a really interesting handout that she prepared. It's like a crosswalk of the strategic plan. Do you all have it? If you don't have it, we can. I haven't heard from anybody having issues. We can send it again. We'll send it to you. And please, if anybody needs those handouts, let us know. We're going to also make them available via the Faculty Senate webpage and that thing. This, I wish we had time to talk about this crosswalk because it has a lot of really useful information. I wish we had more time on that.
Yeah. So I just want to mention there's 3 documents that I have now out there. So it is the slide you just saw, the crosswalk with the UT Tyler strategic plan, and I also have another one on next steps for implementation that I just came up with this morning. So I'm leaving with plenty of stuff to talk about at your next Faculty Senate meeting.
Fantastic.